last but not least, is our section on privacy. What can you do to protect yourself when you're on the internet? So, privacy in the digital age. Privacy in relation to internet and technology refers to the right and expectation of individuals to control their personal information and data, how it's used, how it's collected, how it's shared by online platforms, services, and devices. Unfortunately, your data is kind of everywhere these days. Every time you use a free app, really you're paying for it with your data. Google, right? You might be searching something and then you hop onto another website and you get an ad specifically for what you were looking for. Maybe the other day, the last hour, the last few minutes. That's because your data is being brokered across these different organizations. They profit off of your data. So apps will collect data to, personalize the experience for you, but sometimes they literally do it just to target ads at you and profit off of you. So how can you protect your privacy and data when everyone seems to be after it? One way is to prevent oversharing. So what is oversharing? So that's when you disclose excessive personal information, usually on social media, some kind of public forum, where it's not really appropriate or necessary. So you can share details about your life, your feelings, things that are too intimate to be on the internet. Remember, every time you put something on the internet, it is permanent. It can be copied, shared, and pretty much impossible to delete. So here's an example of oversharing. So just, regular old posts, they're going on their honeymoon, but look at all the personal information that they've exposed. So they put their full name on their social media profiles. They put the location they're going to be. So now people who have access to this profile, hopefully it's private, it might be public, can now see where they're going to be. They now have the partner's name, the pet's name, the mom's maiden name and full name, really. An important date is revealed here, right, in the hashtags. So all of this, right, is usually information that websites will collect in case you need to recover a password, you forgot it. They'll ask for your mother's maiden name, your pet's name, some kind of important date. If you expose this to everybody on the internet, they now have, increased chances of stealing your information, of pretending to be you and stealing your data. So cyber criminals can use your personal information to guess your passwords, to answer security questions, like I said, basically pretend to be you and gain access to your data. So don't post your location or travel plans or daily routine because that can make you vulnerable to all sorts of attacks, both on the internet and in real life. If someone knows you're not home, you're now more exposed to burglary. Sharing workplace details or photos can cause sensitive company information to be leaked, and that's actually been behind a lot of data breaches. Is when people don't follow best operational practices. They break the rules. They share something online they weren't supposed to. They didn't even realize it might be a picture they posted, and there's something in the background that they didn't notice. So all of that can be used, right, to gain access, unauthorized access to data. So be careful with what you post. Make sure you're not giving, too much information. Give only what's absolutely necessary because when something's posted on the internet, it's going to be there indefinitely. Also, kind of tied hand in hand with oversharing is cyberbullying. So it's bullying that takes place through digital devices such as computers, smartphones, and tablets. So they can hide behind, anonymous accounts. It could be someone you know. It could be someone that doesn't know you at all that just, gets pleasure in bringing chaos into people's lives. Uh, the way to prevent it is awareness, right? Make sure that you're talking about this. If you're a student, if you're a parent, an educator, it's important to have these conversations because cyberbullying becomes more and more common as young people become more intertwined and entangled with social media. It's important to report it. So if you experience it or hear about it or know about it, make sure you report it to somebody, to a parent, to a school official, to someone that can help you out. And then, of course, right, if you are exposed to cyberbullying, it's important to reach out to your support systems. Uh, Talk about it. Do not hide it. Do not wait for things to get too intense, to get too difficult. And more importantly, remember, the more you share online, the more you are exposed to these attacks. Even cyberbullying that is in, a deeply personal attack. Remember, you can always unplug from the internet. You can always delete that app. You can always put the phone down, put the computer down, and go out, and live life. Life is not just on the internet. Although, the internet can add to your life, remember that when you are exposed to the dangers of the internet, it's important to really question, right? Hey, what am I doing to protect myself? Am I doing absolutely everything I can to, minimize my exposure to these threats? So it's important to surf responsibly. So avoid oversharing, like we said. Don't post in real time. Think about what you're sharing. Watch your photos, right? Like I said, stuff can be in the background. And of course, do not share what's, absolutely not necessary, like personal details, birth dates, home addresses. That's a bad idea. Password security. Passwords are the first line of defense for all of your accounts. So it's important that you make strong passwords. They should be long, they should be a mix of characters, they should be difficult to guess. And of course, if you're logging into any app and it asks you, hey, do you want to enable 2FA, two factor authentication? You should absolutely always do it. Each account has different ways to enable it. I will leave it up to you to figure out how to enable that on all of your accounts. You remember, now that you know how to navigate the internet, you can always Google, ChatGPT, anything you want. Something I will show you that we didn't cover in the demo is password managers. So when you use Google Chrome, you actually have access to password managers. So for example, if you create a new account, so I'm gonna go DoorDash and create a new account. DoorDash new account. Or let's just see, DoorDash account. Or let's just go Nike account. So when you create a new account, so I'm going to type in a new email. All right, let me change that to one of my. I have emails that I use for, for accounts that I don't care, about blowing up my email client. We'll talk about that more in email software. But notice it's asking if I want to save the password. So this is called a password manager. And the beauty of password managers, they're tied to your browser. So they're kind of hidden behind whatever account is tied to that browser. So in this case, it's our Gmail account. And not only um, can you save your password, you can actually have it generate a password for you. Um, and all the passwords will be saved here in your account. So you don't have to remember them. You can have really difficult ones. And in fact, like I said, it can even generate passwords for you. A lot of times they'll say, hey, do you want us to suggest a strong password? So you can have literally, a different password for each account, really long ones, really difficult ones. You won't have to remember them. They're going to be hidden behind your Gmail account. So I highly recommend you use Gmail's password managers. Every time it says, do you want to save the password? Hit yes. Every time it says, do you want to, you know, generate a random new password, difficult password? Hit yes. Of course, just keep in mind if you don't have access to that Gmail account on your other devices, then it might be difficult, right, to retrieve those passwords. So it is useful to still have a password that you know. I do something where I make variations of the same password. That does cause problems for me sometimes when I have to remember them. I have to go through like 5 different passwords. But it's better than being like insecure on the internet. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. So that's password security. Use your password managers on your browser. Practice safe browsing habits. If you're punching in personal information, sensitive information, for example, if I go on Wells Fargo, all right, let's go. Oh, what's another bank? The Bank of America. And you go here and you're trying to log in. You used to be able to see this a little bit more clearly, but if you click here on the settings for the site, it says connection is secure. This means that the connection is encrypted. So data that's moving and flowing through this website will be encoded so that hackers won't be able to see the information. They're just going to be able to see like a bunch of random data that makes no sense to them. So it's important that if you are entering sensitive information, that it's on a secure site. So you don't have to check every single time. Just make sure you're on a trusted website. You could check every single time though if you want to be extra, extra safe. As we discussed with phishing, do not click on links or download attachments from unknown or unsolicited emails. If you did not reset your password, do not click on the reset password email. Go directly to the website first. Be cautious of pop ups and urgent messages claiming you won something. This goes especially for our older computer users, right? These scams, they're very, very on the social engineering side. They're trying to convince you of being legitimate, but younger people are a lot better at identifying those because they've been flooded with those types of attacks, right, since they've been using computers. And then, of course, use bookmarks and frequently visited and trusted sites to avoid phishing attempts. You don't have to click on that email link to navigate to the website. You could always go to the website directly and then, pull off that password reset or, share that document. Whatever you're trying to do, it doesn't have to be from the email. You could go directly to the website. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Software updates. So remember, application software handles a lot of your sensitive data, such as social media. It's important with any software. Now, a lot of these, web software, you don't have to worry about that, like if you're using Google Docs, because you're not actually downloading it. But if you have installed software on your device, your mobile phone, or your computer, it's important that you update the software because they're constantly patching the security. They're constantly improving the security. They're identifying vulnerabilities. And when you miss or skip that software update, you're skipping on that improved security. So you're exposing yourself to these new types of attacks. Again, using public networks, as you saw in the video, it's very important that when you're using unsecured public Wi-Fi networks, while they are convenient, you have to know you are exposing yourself. You can use a virtual private network, a VPN, as we discussed in the Google Chrome demo. You can install that as an extension. There are other ways I know of that you can get a VPN. There are paid services as well. Just know that's one layer of defense. Just know every time you're on a public network, there is a level of exposure. Make sure that when you do connect to the public network and it asks you, hey, do you want to treat this as a public or home network? Choose public network when you are on those unsecured public Wi-Fi networks. That's going to give it stricter security rules to make sure that's harder for hackers to see your data. And then, of course, cyber awareness. The more you know, the better you are at identifying the red flags, minimizing your exposure, and most importantly, the more you know, the more you can share with your friends, family, and coworkers to help everyone stay safer and make it harder for the attackers to succeed. Make it harder for them to get your money and information.